Tell me about a time that your grandmother got on to you.
Oh, gosh.
When she had the discussion with me, like that stuck with me for days. All right, welcome back to the Bennett Podcast. I'm here today with Katlyn Foulks. She is a third-generation owner here at Bennett, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about everything today. So first off, I want to just let Katlyn tell you exactly what her title is because I muddle it up every time I try to say it. So welcome, Katlyn.
Thanks, Jason. So I'm the Culture Ambassador to the Bennett Family of Companies. That's my official title.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I guess when people ask, what do you do? Essentially, in a short answer, I kind of just steward the vision for culture that my grandmother has created. But that looks like a lot of different things.
If I'm out here watching, right, what I'm thinking is, okay, culture ambassador.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like a pretty, cush job, and, you don't really, what do you do? Just make sure people are happy and make people, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. And I'll be honest, I was one of those people when you and I first met, before I was even a part of Bennett, and you were telling me, I was kind of like, well, that sounds like a cool job. I think I could do that. Just make sure that everybody follows the culture. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about it.
Culture it's a big, massive word because it's in everything that we do. It's in our safety. It's in our processes. It's in our systems. It's the way we innovate. It's the way we communicate. So culture, it's all these things, and it touches everyone. It touches our drivers, our employees, our customers, our agents, even our vendors. And so it's a big topic. But our culture is driven by four things. It's driven by our mission, our vision, our core values, and our purpose as a company. And so really what I do is I kind of do things more so at a high level. So really, how do you live those out intentionally? So a good example is looking at our core values. Okay, so if we, one thing right out the gate, because I started back here in this position about 3.5 years ago. And so right out of the gate, I felt like a piece of our culture that needed just some improvement was learning and development. Because one of our core values is we collaborate through learning and development. And so that's a great example. You take something and you take it off the wall and you bring it to life. And so, and I had heard that, and we do surveys, so we survey our employees twice a year. And so that's how we get a good measure of kind of where we're at. What are we doing right? So let's continue to do those things and improve those things, or what are some areas that we can work on? And so one of those areas was learning and development. And so I had a passion behind that, and we realized that we needed a learning management system. So we went out, invested in that, and created Bennett University. So that's just an example. But another big part of our culture, safety, is entrepreneurial spirit, which could be more. You could break that down even more into drivers, our driving force, who are the lifeblood of our company, or our agents. That is all that entrepreneurial spirit. And so, but that's other people's responsibilities. Even though we all have that responsibility, I guess I focus on some things that are more high level, but everyone has a responsibility of culture, just like we all have a responsibility of safety. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me ask you this. So, right, I know because every time we bring somebody on board, right, you're a part of the interview process, a big part of the interview process, because we can find talented people to do the job,
right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right person for the job because they have to fit this unique culture that we have. I'm going to say unique because I think the more and more we grow in the United States, we lose sight of certain things, and that's something that your grandmother has never lost sight of and continues to this day to really press hard on is those core values. And really what it boils down to is, faith, family, and freedom. And so let's say we bring somebody on board and they're not living those values. Do you play a part in that kind of redirecting piece of it, or are we just like, we got to get you out of here? In
ways, yes. In ways, it depends on the situation. But I'm going to go back to Bennett University.
Okay.
How I would say kind of to your question about, you're talking about redirection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a big part of our culture as well, not just learning and development, but is leadership. That's in our mission. That's in our vision, is to be the leader in this industry, but leadership in general. And we all have the capacity to be a leader. You don't have to have a leadership title to do that. We all have the capacity to lead. And so in Bennett University, we have the Marcy Taylor School of Leadership. And that's just a resource that anyone in the company, but especially the leadership personnel, we strongly encourage that they go through that. And there's a lot of training in there around our culture, around our values, around behaviors, how to have hard conversations, what our expectations are. So I guess like that accountability piece is more lumped in on how we train, we hold each other accountable, we communicate that, and we're a family culture. So, like I would hope like you and I would have maybe some sidebars like, hey, this is kind of hard. Like, what are your thoughts? I do that. That's why mentorship and that family culture is so important, so we can lean on each other during those hard times too. I've certainly done that with my mom and my grandma. One, they've just embodied it, and I've just looked from afar. But then I've had to ask them, hey, what would you do in this situation? And sometimes it's a teaching moment. They'll tell me, or it's like, well, here's some thoughts, and then now you got to go make it your own kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered that question.
No, you did.
Okay.
You did. My mind went two different directions as you were giving me the answers. I'm thinking of, home office employees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a little bit easier to kind of oversee from a cultural standpoint. But you mentioned the most important piece of Bennett, right? Our owner-operators, our drivers out there that are on the road every single day. And those are the people that our customers see. And, knowing Mrs. Taylor, knowing that this position was created, by her, not for you because you're her granddaughter, because it's important to this company. It's important for us to continue to thrive and grow by living that culture.
Right.
So what would be some advice that you would give to our owner-operators out there, knowing what they go through day in and day out? Because, I know how I feel sometimes when I come off the road. I'm grouchy. I want to just, have some quiet time. But these men and women are dealing with that, and then they're showing up at one of our customers.
Right.
And they have to be professional, and they have to be the face of Bennett. So what would some advice be to them about, hey, here's some ideas on how you could live it?
Yeah.
Right? What are some, you said you asked your grandmother, what would you do in this situation, right? What would you do? What would Miss Taylor do in that situation?
Man, that's a big question.
I know. I ask big questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our owner-operators, they can choose to drive for any company out there, but they have chosen to drive for Bennett. So we see that as something we take that we take a lot of pride in that they chose to be liaison to Bennett. And so at the end of the day, they're their own business, but we hire them as professionals. We know that they're professionals in what they do. Now, certainly when they lease on, we go over some expectations just like we do on the employee side when we go out and hire. But we do say, hey, look, you have chosen to lease on to Bennett. We go over our expectations, and we share that with them. Now, everyone has their days. I like the saying there's good days and then there's better days, because that's just, I think you need to have that positive kind of mindset on life. But, I would hope that our family culture, that they can call us and talk to us, and if they are having a hard day, that we can help be that listening ear for them and pour into them and give them words of affirmation and give them whatever support that they need, whether it's prayer. We have chaplains for them to lean into as well if they're going through an extremely difficult time, because we all have, life going on. So I would say that. I would say that they could talk to, I know that they're talking to their dispatchers. They can talk to their dispatchers and have hard conversations, just like you and I are on that end, having these conversations. They can have that with their dispatcher. Or, going back to family culture, we see our drivers as our family. They can easily call up me, David Lowry, Danny Lowry, Marcy Taylor, and they do. And they will have these conversations and, just for that mentorship and leadership as well. But I would say, and I know that they understand this, that a big part of our culture as well is serving. That's one of our core values, is that we humbly serve. And so I just would hope that even on your worst day, to me, that is the culture of Bennett, is who you are on your worst day, and living that out. Even us as a company, who we are on our worst day in the furthest part of the organization is the true culture of Bennett. And so I just would hope that they would take a step back and just be reaffirmed by humbly serving and serve that customer, and, us serve one another, and, really try to live that out.
Sure. So I want to get into some fun stuff, but I do think it's important. Part of who we are is the giving back, and, you mentioned, a lot of these drivers have a direct line into Miss Taylor.
Yep. Absolutely.
If not her, other people that have a lot of influence here. Something that I would strongly guess that you're not going to get that somewhere else. Even in another family company. I mean, you're just not going to get that. Driver Appreciation Week out at the Speedway, Miss Taylor was right in the mix. And, she's 80 years old. She's been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, we had a birthday. I mean,
I know.
Look, if she wants to get on to me for it, then she can get on to me for it. But the other part, this is where I make nice, right?
Yeah.
For somebody, she will, work circles around most everybody.
Her energy outpaces me all the time.
Yeah.
She is such an inspiration just on that level.
Yeah. And there's no slowing her down. And I think that's driven by her passion for the business and her, motivation to make this as the best experience for anybody, whether you're an owner, operator, home office employee, whatever.
And
but she has high expectations.
Yeah, and because she cares about everyone, like family. She feels that level of responsibility too.
Yeah,
so,
and not everybody listens to all the broadcasts. We try to get it out there during Driver Appreciation Week, so we're sharing that information. We do it through Drivers IG, different areas, right, to kind of help spread that culture. But also part of that is the communication piece of it, to make sure that they feel like they're in the know. I think we always can do a better job, and we're always looking to do a better job. I think one of the things that really stuck out to me the last 2 driver appreciations, which are the only 2 that I've been a part of since I've been here, is the driver relief fund.
Yeah.
Right? The drivers pour into it. Everybody pours into it. And we raise a lot of money for a really great cause, which is to put back on our drivers that are in need and need help. Something that people don't realize is every year Miss Taylor matches up to $10,000 for each of those. And that's not something she has to do. It's something that she wants to do. And so in addition to having this great opportunity to help our drivers, she takes it a step farther. So tell me a little bit about that side of your grandmother. There's everybody sees the giving side, but there's something else there that's special.
Yeah.
And you've been fortunate enough, working for her, but being her granddaughter.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
So, yes, my grandmother, she's always had a giving heart. She grew up, we talk about it in our 50th anniversary book, very humble beginnings, and did not come from a lot. And I think regardless on how she became the woman she is today, she would still be a giving person, because that's just who she is at her core. But so yeah, I think that's just who she's always been as a person, is just very giving, because she feels like God has, blessed her, but He's also blessed Bennett. And so again, it goes back to that responsibility of being a blessing to others, and, giving back. That's so important to her, and that's something that she's instilled in all of us, is giving back. She's done that through a multitude of ways. We have the driver's relief fund, we have an agent relief fund, we have an employee relief fund. Those are just relief funds in times of very unfortunate circumstances that, that those people can use those funds. But I would say one of the biggest ways is through creating the Taylor Foundation, which she did 13 years ago. So she's always herself, but Bennett has always given back to the community and to people. But she wanted to do it in a more formal way, and so created a family foundation 13 years ago. And so that's now how we formally give back. My grandmother, my mom, and my two uncles, they focus more on large impact giving. And then Gen 3, because there's several Gen 3 that work here in the company, we focus on more the smaller, I don't want to say smaller impact, but more from a monetary standpoint, impact giving, and kind of more spreading the love, I guess, is a better way of putting it, but really giving back. And then that's what we're going to do with our kids one day, to help teach how important it is, because that was, really important for us growing up, is you got to give back, and you got to teach your kids at a young age is giving back. But then also, Grandma, she uses other people at Bennett to get involved in the giving, like Reese. There are several employees that are part of that in a lot of different ways. They give back. There's so many other examples through the relief funds, helping manage them, helping fundraise for them, getting other drivers a part of their driver relief fund. She has just always done such a great job of having other people be a part of the giving. Wendy Hammock oversees our charity committee, has been for years. That committee mainly focuses on the school system, and so we like to help kids in the school system. So there are a lot of ways that employees can be a part of that, not just only the family.
Good. Okay. All right. You mentioned when you were little, like you were born into this.
Yes.
All right. You were born into this. All right. So one question I was been thinking about since I've known we were going to have this conversation.
Oh gosh.
All right. Tell me about a time that your grandmother got on to you.
Oh gosh. Well, it definitely looks different in adulthood than it does as a kid. Well, Jake and I, when we would come up here, so we would come up here a lot after school, because in the old heydays of Bennett, there was only a couple buildings. Now we have obviously grown. There's a lot more buildings, and then just things are just different, But Jake and I we grew up coming here a lot after school. We'd get on the old intercom system and play hide and go seek. But I'm trying to think of a specific situation. I just know that there were several times that we would, we were just kids. We'd come up here and we'd do things, and she'd be like, you can't do that. You can't do that. One thing that she got on to us for, I don't know if we did this during the week or if we came up here on a weekend, because my mom would have to work a lot, on the weekends if it was symposium or something. And we'd bring our scooters up here, our little Razor scooters. And we were riding them around the campus one day, and she was like, y'all can't do that. No, this is a place of work. You can't do that. We would do all kinds of sneaky stuff.
Yeah.
That was fun.
The reason I asked is, right, so I got a talking to not too long ago, just some miscommunication. And when she, had the discussion with me, like that stuck with me for days. And it wasn't because it was like this, it was this.
Yeah. You let her
basically
down.
Like, yeah, you let me down, and you got to do better. And it was the way that she delivered that I was like, oh my gosh, like I do have to do better. And and I've seen her do that, and it reminds me a lot of how my grandfather was when he was alive, and like that's what it took me back to, because he fired me when I was 15 years old when I was painting his house. And he taught me how to do this, and and as soon as he walked away, I was like, I'm not doing that, and started doing it my own way. And I didn't know he snuck up behind me, and he all he did was like, that's not the way you do it. That's not the way I told you to do it. You need to get down and clean that brush off and go home, because you're not going to be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And I sat on that for like 2 or 3 days, and my mom finally was like, you need to hop on your motorcycle, because it was like right down the road from us, and you need to go talk to your grandpa. and ask for your job back. And when Miss Taylor talked to me, that's the way I felt. I was like, I was in that 15-year-old body again going, oh my gosh, I just let one of the most important people in my life down, and I got to do better, So that's the reason I asked you that question. So,
well, I mean, I think as an adult, I've had those experiences, but it's definitely a very unique relationship being a family member where she's my grandmother, but also my boss. Same with my mom, So it's a very unique relationship. And kind of like to your point, as my grandmother and as ultimately, my boss, I don't want to let her down. So, you're always working hard and wanting to do a good job. But for me, it's kind of both those reasons too.
Yeah. So, might be a tough question to ask, but I know you will answer it honestly. If you didn't work here, where would you go? What would you do?
I think I'd just be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I do. After having kids, for sure, I'd be a stay-at-home mom.
Did you ever think, like, as you were growing up, going to school, doing all those things, that Bennett's not going to be the direction for me? I'm going to go a different way.
Oh yeah.
Well, so what changed?
So, all right. So this is now personal, Katlyn's story. Yeah. So actually, when I met Noah in college, I was 20 or 21. We had met. We kind of had a crazy story. We met and by the time we met, we got married like basically 7 months later. It was very, very short. And at that point in my life, I wanted to go into the mission field and do mission work and go overseas and plant churches or be a missionary or something like that. And Noah had a very similar path. And so we had kind of felt that's what God was leading us to. And then, kind of before all that, like growing up, my grandmother and my mom, they've always said, Bennett, it's awesome. We'd love for you to work here, but go do what you feel called to do, what you feel God calling you to do. Like, that's what you need to do in life. You got to find that for yourself. And so it's so hard because, sometimes when you're young, your parents telling you what to do always helps but when they just say it's
or
up to
it drives you the exact opposite direction.
Yeah. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, I always know Bennett's there, if I need it to be, but I never, I don't know. I'd grown up in it, I guess, but I didn't really feel that calling that young in my life. And so here I am in college knowing I feel that calling. He's going to seminary. I mean, we're like serious about it. And then one day, it's just so cool how God works. I was in school getting my master's degree. And I felt like God was saying, business can be a form of ministry. And I had never thought of business like that. I just never had, right? Like, you're young, you got to have these things and experiences in life to kind of have that revelation, and that was my revelation moment. And so I told Noah, and he's like, I've been kind of feeling that too. And he's like, Bennett and your grandmother, it's a faith-based company. She, keeps God first, and Bennett is that. Bennett is a mission field. And so it was like we both at the same time had this epiphany, and it was like that was God. Like, I had to realize that, on my own for the first time, not have my mom or grandma force me to work here. Like, you have to want it. And I wanted it, and I felt this calling to come back. And so came back to Bennett, kind of did some various jobs, worked in various departments. I even worked at my mom at one point.
So before you get too much farther,
okay,
what was the interview process for you?
Grandma, can I have a job?
Okay.
It wasn't.
If I would have known that was that easy, I would have just done that.
No. Well, you got to kind of be family.
Yeah.
To have that kind of experience. But yeah, I was like, hey, can I please have a job? It would be an honor to work here. She's like, yes. Where would you like to go? And I'm like, I don't know. Bennett has changed and grown so much, and so I kind of had to find my own way, but really kind of where the needs were. She was like, well, we have a need here, go here. And, it was very much kind of some of the first stages, I think, in a company process. Those were some of the places that I first went to work in the company.
So I got to ask, Ro, Right. It's, Grandma, can I have a job? I knew that was going to be the answer. But if you didn't want it, right, because you said your mom and your grandmother, everybody said you have to want it to be a family member that works here. Do you think that if Miss Taylor saw in you that she's just using this as a fallback, like, because you said it a minute ago, right? Mm-hmm. If I wanted to do it, Bennett's here. Mm-hmm. Do you think she would have given you the same answer? Do you think she would have said, you're not ready yet?
Well, I think, it, like, for me, I would want my grandchild to work here. But she's going to have that hard talk with me if she sees, hey, are you really just showing up, or are you actually working? She's going to have that, going back to those hard conversations that you don't want to let her down. She would have that with me. But, when you say you want to work here, you got to work here and work harder, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would.
That was kind of a setup question, because I've worked for companies before that, it's second generation, and it's like, well, this was my daddy's company, so now it's going to be my company, and you just see them fall apart, right? And you just know that it's, well, this is the easy way. And I look at your mom, your uncles, and how hard they still work today, right? And you talk about the Gen 3. From my vantage point, it's not, I'm going to show up when I want to show up, and if I say, oh, I'm bored with this, I want to do that, that I don't get the sense of that. And that's why I asked that question, was if she would have recognized that this is just kind of an easy way for you, I would guess she probably would push back pretty hard and have that hard conversation with you.
Yeah, well, I guess to go back to, no, I think, I don't think it was that. I hope that I, worked hard. But then my mom, years ago, she had a diversity company that we ran a lot of business through. And so my mom's like, hey, I need help. Can you come over here and help me do some work in this side of the business? I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to. So I went over there, did that for a few years. So it wasn't here at the home office. It was set up in Griffin, which is like 30 minutes from here for those who are listening to this that don't know where that's at. And I worked with my mom for a few years, and that was great. Again, it goes back to that hat of, like, you're working for your mom, you don't want to let them down, but so you're working for your mom, but they're also your boss. But it's like one of the greatest experiences of my life. Like, I love it so much. It's just it's one of the unique things about working for a family business. But then. So this was 3 years ago. Gosh, I'm trying to think when this was, because, we're in 2024. So it was, 4 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, Jason. Gosh, I'm losing track of time, because I came back here when Jonah turned 1. Yeah, 2019. So, about 5 years ago, Bennett had started doing some major changes. We had acquired some companies. We were building out some new locations. And our advisory board felt like maybe there was some culture changes going on within the company, and they thought that was, something that we needed to look into. So my grandmother said, yes, look into that. And so we had some data, some actual raw data of, like, what's going on with our culture, where are we at right now. And then they took that to my grandmother, and, she was like, okay, we need to focus on culture. Like, that is a big part of who we are as a company, but also what's going to keep us moving forward. And so I'll never forget, she took me to lunch one day, and I was like, Grandma, I feel like, God's calling me back to the home office. Like, I want to come back to the home office. And it was a really good timing, too. It wasn't leaving my mom's business. She decided to do something else with that business. So it was just, like, a really beautiful timing. And so she took me to lunch, and she was telling me all about this, because I hadn't been connected to the home office in a while. And she was giving me all this backstory of the culture. And she was like, would you like to do that? I'd like for you to do that. And I was like, yeah, I'd be honored to. Like, that's the culture you've created and you've established, and the family culture that you and Mom and David and Danny have worked so hard, and so many others have worked hard to build. And so that's kind of how I got into the seat today.
Where'd y'all go for lunch?
Palmer's.
Okay. Good. All right.
Good choice.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
It's a pretty heavy question, right? You mentioned the book, it's 50 years of Bennett right there. We're looking ahead at 2025, and the kind of theme moving forward is the next era, right? Excellence through service. What do you see Bennett, what does Bennett look like, in your mind, what does Bennett look like 5 years from now?
Well, I hope that we're a lot bigger and better. I hope that we're bigger and better.
How can we be better?
So my grandmother has a saying that it's not about being the biggest, it's just about being the best. And I love that. And I say that all the time because it is just like burned in my memory. But if we are better, we're going to be bigger. I think by focus on being better, it's going to come back to our theme, that service, because we have focused so much the past couple years on leadership and really pouring into leadership development. But now we got to focus on service, because I think in the marketplace, what Bennett is known for, we're known for the family culture. We're known for that, but we're also known for our service and what we provide. And I think we can always be better at this, but we really got this down. So now we got to really, and we're really good at service too, but we're always focusing on being better and being better. And so really leaning into our service, whether that's training, whether that's services that we're providing, so going out and acquiring companies or offering ourselves more services, leaning into that, offering more services for our customers so that we can continue to do more, and that the opportunities are going to be endless.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I hope that we're better and we are bigger, and, but we always got to keep our values as our foundation. Those are things that you never look behind it. Those always stay forward in your thinking and your decision making. And we'll get there. We'll be a good company.
So 50 years from now, when we're doing our second podcast together, and we've got a 100th anniversary
50.
book.
I'll be my grandmother's age.
I'll be over 100, so right? I'm still going to be working here.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So
because we don't let people retire.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
Sorry,
retire.
Jason.
You just kind of
get tired.
halfway. Yeah.
Yeah. We say you don't retire. You just get tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're always on call.
Always on call.
No, I'm just kidding. I know that we've got a lot of good things ahead.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate you giving me the chance to be on this podcast. This was fun. I look forward to the next one. Have me back.
All right. 50
Okay.
years.
Here we go.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.